offset in the Vatican by a similar dome facing a familiar obelisk, both of which were, according to their own official records, fashioned after the Roman pantheon, the domed rotunda dedicated to all pagan gods. Now this pattern, a dome temple facing an obelisk, this is an ancient alchemical blueprint that was used by the highest in history, the highest levels of the occult order, for one purpose: to generate the resurrection of the god into the personage or the leader of that country or government represented by that individual. Let me do this real quick. For those who may not know it, the U.S. Capitol building, let's see if you knew this, in Washington, D.C., is historically based on a pagan Masonic temple theme. Did you know that? Thomas Jefferson, who shepherded the Roman Pantheon design, wrote to the Capitol's architect, Benjamin Latrobe, defining it as, quote, the first temple dedicated to establishing with Athenian taste the course of a nation looking far beyond the range of Athenian destinies. The Athenian Empire, of course, was first known as Ossyria, the Empire of Osiris. In 1833, Massachusetts Representative Rufus Coyote agreed, saying, we have built no temples but the Capitol. Now why would that be true? Why would the builders have been referring to our Capitol dome as a temple? Well, in 1793, when the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol building was laid by George Washington in full Masonic garb and ritual, Maryland Grandmaster Joseph Clark was there that day as Grandmaster pro tempore, and to cannon fire, here is what he said, both before and after cannon fire, he proclaimed this loudly: I have every hope that the grand work we have done today will be handed down to as late posterity as the like work of that ever memorable temple to our order, erected by our Grand Master Solomon.
At the heart of London city-state is a 187-ton, 69-foot-tall Egyptian obelisk called Cleopatra's Needle. It was transported from Egypt and erected on the banks of the River Thames. In Vatican City, another Egyptian obelisk towers high above St. Peter's Square. What exactly is an obelisk? Obelisks are phallic-shaped monuments honoring the pagan sun god of ancient Egypt called Amun-Ra. The spirit of this pagan god is said to reside within the obelisk. Obelisks symbolize the phallus and fertility. At the base of the obelisk is a sunwheel circle symbolizing the vagina. Together, they depict male and female sexual union. Worshippers of Amun believe Amun is the supreme god and creator of all things, and can transform himself into other gods, like Osiris, the god of the underworld, or Seth, the god of evil and chaos.
The work we have done today, laying the cornerstone of this designed, magnificent temple, the capital of our states, by the virtuous achievements of our most illustrious brother, George Washington, end quote. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, master Freemasons, including George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Pierre Elephant, they designed and dedicated the Capitol building of the United States to be a temple of pagan spiritual energy, modeled after their belief systems based on Isis, Osiris, and Harem-Abib. Now, to understand the significance behind those statements and what it might mean for the future of the world, you have to comprehend how these apparati, the dome and the obelisk facing it, facilitate important archaic and modern protocols for invigorating prophetic supernatural alchemy. Well, anyway, that legend is central to Freemasonic belief. Basically, Freemasonic belief is based on that legend. And that legend also formed the core of Egyptian cosmology and was venerated on the most imposing scale all throughout ancient Egypt by giant, towering obelisks, including at Karnak, at the greatest of all of their edifices, the obelisk and dome as imitations of the deity's male and female reproductive organs could, through government representation, invoke into existence the being or beings symbolized by them. In my 25 years of pastoring, by the way, one of my specialties was, in fact, I served for 3 years as an exorcist. And to do that required a great deal of study in fields of spiritual warfare, occultism, that sort of thing. And I can tell you there is a precedent for when nations allow their governments to do particular things. They can loose and unloose supernatural realities. If people tolerate it, if they go along with it, if they allow it to happen, your angel in the whirlwind literally can be released and set in motion chaos across the world. These are real powers. Well, the dome and obelisk were very much a part of how the deity would be incarnated in the leader of that capital. Through such imitative sects, the dome and obelisk became energy receivers capable of assimilating Ra's essence from the rays of the sun. What does that mean? It means it drew forth the seed. This is in symbolism. This is alchemistry. It drew forth the seed of the underworld Osiris. The seed of the dead deity would, according to the supernaturalism, transmit upward from out of the underworld through the base or testes of the obelisk and magically emit from the tower's head into the womb or dome of Isis. And in that way, according to this magical belief system, Osiris could be born again, the dying and resurrecting God. He can come back over and over. All right, in practical magic, how did Osiris, on rising from the underworld, actually become housed in a human body again? Well, in Egypt, where raising Osiris to life was perfected through these magical constructs, Pharaoh served as the fit extension. He was, by his government position, to become inhabited by the reborn God, to take residence in when the sex act was performed, by the way, at the largest religious structure ever built, the temple of Amun-Ra at Karnak. That's where Pharaoh would go through the festival of Opet and become the inheritor of the resurrected spirit of Osiris. I'm going to jump forward again. Thus Pharaoh was, just as the God ciphered on the great seal of the United States, will be the son and spiritual incarnation of Osiris, the god of Freemasonry. And ladies and gentlemen, in Washington, D.C., the dome and the obelisk stand ready for the metaphysical ritual to be performed in secret by the elite to make sure they are prepared. The magic ceremony has been rehearsed and ritualized in the house of the temple, in the Herodome, by the Supreme Council 33rd degree Freemasonry over Washington, with every passing United States president since George Washington, in anticipation of the ultimate future incarnation of Apollo Osiris. The occult tools they have at their disposal are without comparison. The obelisk in St. Peter's Square in Rome is not just any obelisk. It was one that was removed and took there from the ancient city of Heliopolis, the city of On in the Bible, dedicated to Ra, Osiris, and Isis. In Washington, the obelisk built by Freemasons and dedicated to America's first president is the largest, and I'm not being crude here, in their mythology size matters. It is the largest obelisk in the world at 6,666 inches high, some say 666.0, and at the base 666 inches wide along each side at the base. What these alchemical utilities will be used for in the near future is not without practice, and it is not without precedent in the United States. Through Masonic alchemistry, presidential apotheosis, that is, the leader of the United States, America's Pharaoh, being transformed into a god within the capital dome or womb of Isis, in sight of the obelisk of Osiris began with America's most